Just the other week, I was wallowing in my math induced misery, procrastination inevitably setting in. But then, like a beacon of hope, my friend walked into my room wearing a sweater that I swear whispered to me, Elise, I was made for you. So naturally, I asked her where it's from. Reformation, she said, and went on to explain their motto. Being naked is the number one most sustainable option. We're number two. Later that night, I looked into Reformation's website. The clothes were stunning, but the prices hit me like a ton of bricks. $300 for a sweater? I looked down at my wallet, which looked as empty as my post-math test brain. So I closed the tab and did what any rational person would. Search for a cheaper alternative. And within just minutes, I found a nearly identical sweater for $15. But on Shein, one of the biggest fast fashion retailers. As I was about to click add to cart, I hesitated. In an environment like Phillips Academy, where sustainability and environmental consciousness is woven into our culture, wearing fast fashion feels like a bright red, selfish and unsustainable tattooed across my forehead. And it wasn't just external judgment I feared. It was an internal struggle as well. I wanted to make ethical and sustainable choices, but when I saw the price tags of eco-friendly brands, I felt a stark reminder of my own financial reality. And this is a global reality. People everywhere are constantly trying to stitch together their desire for sustainability with the reality of what they can afford. And when it comes to fast fashion, these choices become even more complicated. We all know that fast fashion has a dark side. But what if I complicated this narrative? What if I told you that fast fashion is improving living standards in the global south, equipping women with financial mobility to protest societal oppression, and breaking barriers to economic development in emerging nations? Today, I want to dig deeper into this complexity to see how fast fashion is breaking barriers in the global south and how workers are stepping into the struggle for a better future. And what's more, we have a role to play. But first, the negatives of fast fashion run deep, and no amount of positive marketing can sugarcoat its damaging reality. Let's start with the environmental degradation. In Ghana, 15 million fast fashion garments pile up weekly, burying beaches under 20-meter heaps of low-quality clothing and crippling the once thriving second-hand clothing trade. Fast fashion cultivates a culture of disposable consumerism, producing synthetic garments that take centuries to break down and that leach microplastics into the environment along the way. To put this into perspective, oil holds first place for the most polluting industry. Fast fashion takes second. And we can't ignore the industry's rampant worker abuse. The global industry employs 7.5 million workers, yet less than 2% earn a living wage. Fast fashion workers endure grueling hours, wage theft, and gender-based harassment. These horrors were thrust into the global spotlight in 2013 with the Rana Plaza collapse in Bangladesh. This factory collapse killed 1,134 workers and injured thousands when factory owners ignored structural cracks and forced workers to continue. All of these horrors are undeniable, and while we must absolutely hold the industry accountable for its negative consequences, we must also take into account the full narrative by looking to the voices in the global south. For many workers in emerging nations, fast fashion may be their best available option. In these developing countries, individuals often do not have the privilege of guaranteed rights. They must fight for them under grueling and non-ideal circumstances. While the conditions in fast fashion sweatshops are undeniably immoral, they offer a vital means for workers to move from rural poverty to urban opportunity, earning higher wages and gaining the means to push for better futures. Here's a snapshot of what I mean. In the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Honduras, and Nicaragua, fast fashion workers earn 3 to 7 times the national average. In Thailand, 72% of workers see their wages as fair, and 60% are even able to accumulate savings. It is for these better conditions that individuals often choose fast fashion as their best viable option. And fast fashion is especially revolutionizing opportunities for women. Over the past 3 decades, fast fashion supply chains has served as a key entry point into the formal workforce, earning higher wages and gaining the means to push for better futures. Nearly 60% of the global industry consists of women, and in some regions, this number soars to 80. For many women, fast fashion represents the first step towards financial independence, an exit voice, and the ability to negotiate for better circumstances. Social economist Naila Kabir highlights that employment in the Bangladesh garment industry equips women with a heightened awareness of their rights and more critical perspective compared to women in other sectors. For many workers, fast fashion represents an unexpected opportunity. And yes, while the conditions in these sweatshops are undeniably immoral, they offer a vital means to support your families and yourselves in the face of limited alternatives and systemic barriers. And fast fashion's impact doesn't just stop at the individual. It's reshaping entire nations. For many emerging economies, fast fashion serves as a catalyst for industrialization, providing the infrastructure and investment necessary to elevate workers into the urban workforce and achieve better living standards. In Bangladesh, where fast fashion exports account for 85% of total exports, their economy has grown by 15-fold since 1980s, and life expectancy has increased by 20 years. These aren't just numbers. They represent children getting access to education, families being able to afford healthcare, and communities thriving in ways once thought unimaginable. And a vital means of this transformation is the investment that follows. Look to Ethiopia, where fast fashion has helped to attract over $10 billion in Chinese investment over the past 5 years. And this investment isn't just building factories. It's creating railroads, increasing internet access, and modernizing infrastructure. One Ethiopian official puts it best: "We're an agrarian nation now, but that will change." Now that we've looked at both the dark sides and the silver linings of fast fashion, where does this leave us? How do we move forward from here? Well, change is already happening, and it's being led one stitch at a time by individuals and organizations who refuse to accept the status quo. Organizations like Remake are striving to guarantee the fundamental rights of every worker, especially along gender lines. They have recovered over $22 billion in stolen wages, prevented 1.8 million pounds of CO2 emissions, and 80,000 pounds of textile waste. But effective global change requires all of us, every policymaker, corporate leader, and consumer, to play a role. And it starts with government action. In today's neoliberal global economy, countries compete for business by cutting labor costs, extending hours, and circumventing labor and environmental protections. This leaves workers vulnerable. What governments must do is enforce a living wage, anti-discrimination policies, and union rights through formal legislation. And we must also hold companies accountable too. Too many fast fashion corporations like Shein are hiding poor labor and polluting conditions behind rosy pictures of corporate responsibility. But we, as consumers, have the power to demand more. By pushing for corporate transparency through campaigns like #WhoMadeMyClothes, we force these corporations, the primary drivers of workers' quality of life, to step up. But what can we, as individuals, do to drive forward change? Well, the answer is complicated. You've probably heard of the term conscious consumerism. It's the idea of buying ethically and sustainably sourced goods. Sounds great, right? But there's a catch. Sustainability comes at a hefty price tag, on average costing 80% more than their conventional counterparts. This creates a tough balance. For many, fast fashion is more than just a convenience but a necessity. For others, sustainability comes at the cornerstone of their purchasing decisions. Many of us struggle both, a constant negotiation between values and practicalities. And the key is to make an informed decision. If fast fashion works for you, then use your purchasing power wisely. Support brands that are striving to improve, whether it's through reducing waste, increasing their transparency, or bettering worker conditions. Your actions send a powerful message that progress matters. If you choose to step away from fast fashion, then consider buying secondhand, reducing your consumption, or buying from brands that pay their workers a living wage. Your actions send a message that the industry model of the past 30 years is no longer acceptable. And the key takeaway is that little change creates massive impacts. A report by Deloitte Access Economics reveals that increasing the retail price of garments by 1% could pay a living wage to garment workers throughout the industry. Think about it. A $5 t-shirt would become $5.05. I may even be able to find that nickel hidden between my dorm's couch cushions. Fast fashion isn't perfect, but it's more than just clothes. It represents opportunity sewn into seams and progress woven into fabric. Many workers in the global south rely on the industry for their livelihoods, to support their families, and for their entire nations to step up. Although the industry rightfully faces criticism, it also acts as a catalyst for change in places where it's needed most. The answer to this complex issue isn't simple, but the questions we ask and the actions we take to break this barrier can lead to meaningful change. So the next time you're eyeing a $15 sweater, pause and ask yourself, what role do I want to play in breaking these barriers? Thank you.